crisis on the campus that we faced all of last week seems to have calmed down a bit. And finally the police went in and dismantled the encampments and got rid of the protesters. However, the problem that it reveals is very, very significant. The fact that there's such a dramatic outbreak of anti-Semitism in the United States of America, which was the haven for Jewish life and religious freedom, and the fact that in so many communities Jews are now fearful of going to synagogue or wearing the kippah or a Star of David. This is a serious, serious problem. And you do see when the police decided to go in, it wasn't a big problem. They could dismantle it. But this attitude of leniency that has gripped the country, and for the last number of years, one after another, the Black Lives Matter, the Occupy Wall Street, the tearing down of statues, and so on and so forth. And you had groups that took over, actually in Seattle. It took over a neighborhood and drove out the government. This is a very, very serious thing. It has to be taken seriously. This is akin to a foreign invasion, when somebody invades your sovereignty and takes over and dictates what shall be in that area. This is not a thing to be taken lightly. The rabbis say in Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, you should pray for the welfare of the government, because without the government, each person would eat his neighbor alive. Terrible, terrible things in this country. And you have situations in some places like California where groups of people, you can call them terrorists, just come in and they steal from department stores. And nobody can stop them, can't stop them. You're permitted to take up to $1,000 worth of goods. It's an amazing kind of thing. It's very, very serious. And Jews have to be aware of it. So, for example, they arrested so many of these protesters, and what happens? They let them go. There's got to be serious consequences. How can you have law and order if there are no serious consequences to this type of criminal activity? And they talk about freedom of speech. Are you kidding me? What about the freedom of speech of the Jewish students who were physically prevented from going to their classes? What about their speech? What about their learning? What about their study? That doesn't matter? And why was there nobody there to escort them to their classes? But they just stood by and did nothing. This is a very, very serious thing. And Jews, more than anybody else, have to start thinking about this and maybe making some adjustments that need to be made. We can't just forget about this. There's got to be continuous pressure on the governmental authorities that they have to do something. They have to take steps. They have to take measures to protect all citizens. And this can't be. You can't have alien groups, whether they're outsiders or whether they're students, taking over authority in public institutions and so forth. There's got to be serious, serious consequences. I think there's one other dimension. Must be. Jews have to think in terms of self-defense. There was a group in California at UCLA, a group of Jews, not from the school, from the neighborhood, decided that these protesters had to be confronted, and they came there, and there was a melee for 3 hours, and that finally brought in the police. But it is essential that the Jew has to change his image of being someone who just turns the other cheek. That he's, I can't imagine any other group that was slated for such attacks and did nothing. Jews have to be able to fight back. That's one of the lessons of the Holocaust. In every Jewish school and every yeshiva, every student should be taught the basics of self-defense and develop the ability not to go out and break the law, within the framework of the law, not to attack anybody, but if you are attacked, you have the ability to defend yourself. That is vital. And until that's done, the Jew is going to face a lot of danger. I'm not saying that this is the entire solution. Of course, you need the government has to step in. There's got to be new kinds of laws defining these types of crimes, taking over college campuses and preventing students from learning. Not to mention, it also reveals the nature of the so-called professors that are totally behind this. And what's happened in the hallowed institutions of American education over the last number of years, where radical leftists who hate America and hate democracy and hate Israel have taken over, and basically it's not education, it's indoctrination. This is a time for reflection. This has revealed serious flaws in the American social structure that need to be addressed, but the Jews themselves have a very serious responsibility. We've seen what happened on the campuses in Nazi Germany. We've seen how one thing led to another, and the demonization of the Jews led to the most horrific persecutions that we've ever experienced. And on top of this, after all said and done, the Jew must change his image and be someone who's prepared to fight for his Jewish existence, fight for self-defense. Very important lesson from the events that have just occurred.